Okay, so in the long run, I think I've decided that not using a script is probably going to be the better option for me going forward because I listened back to that first video that I made and listening to how I sound, what the script sounded kind of and I don't really want to sound anymore, even though I kind of do right now, but like that's not the point. Point is, I want things to be a little more organic and not sound all robotic and stuff while following a script and stuff until I can probably feel like I can do it a little bit more professionally. So going forward, no script, right? That's thing number one. Thing number two is that I also want to make this very clear. This channel right now, well, entire in its entirety, is not for kids. This is teens to young adults to everything before anything after it. And I want to let that be clear now before I start acting like myself and things start happening. I don't want there to be any confusion or any surprise like, oh, there's kids watching this. There shouldn't be. All right. that's just that's just how it is. All right. So with that being said, let's get started.
So, I made a point to mention that in that whole intro video that I did, like last week, I wanted to give a more broader opinion on these different topics that I'm going to be covering. And in order to start with that, I kind of want, like, when I'm discussing these topics, I kind of want my viewpoint on these things to be a little more clear going forward. So, including this video, these first couple of videos are going to be basically me explaining my history with certain things, such as, for example, today's video is going to be Nintendo, but I have things planned for other things. I have other videos planned for other topics, and you'll see as time goes on. But for today, we're going to be focusing on my history with Nintendo. Now, Nintendo holds a very special place in my heart, and this is going to be very, very fun time. I'm talking about it and going through it. Hopefully, it's a fun time. I'm not going to sit here and assume that it will be when I don't know yet. We'll figure out when we get there. So, let's go.
Nintendo was founded in the year 1889 on September 23rd by Fusajiro Yamauchi. This company, as you all know, is known for having a ton of video game consoles that have paved the way in gaming, with my first from them and my first period being the Game Boy Advance SP.
The Game Boy Advance was not only my first Nintendo console, but it was also my first video game system, period. So, because of that, it holds a lot of very good memories in here, and it holds a very special place in my heart. And it is something that I will always remember. I really wish I still had it nowadays, because I don't even know, even if I did have it, I really don't know if that shit still even works. But it was just a fun time back then, playing all the different games that I had on it. I didn't have much, just put that out there. I didn't have much, but what I did have, I made the most out of.
The Game Boy Advance released in the year 2003 on Valentine's Day. I didn't receive mine until the year 2007, which was perfect timing because my first ever Game Boy Advance game was Spider-Man 3 the movie game. This game is so weird to me because not only was it a 2007 game based off of a 2007 movie, it came out on the Game Boy Advance. At this point, the DS was already 3 years old, and there is a DS version of this game, but it's the fact that they even made a Game Boy Advance port to begin with. And it's just, what was the point? I mean, at the end of the day, this was the game that really introduced me to video games as a whole, so I can thank it for that, but to this day, it was still kind of a weird choice to me. Like most movie tie-in games, the game kind of loosely follows the story of the movie, but of course it adds in some things that weren't a part of the movie, like a fight against Electro, and some other things that I can't really think of at the top of my head right now. But it really was a fun time back when I was a kid. I don't really know if I'd go back and play it nowadays, but definitely back then, it was something that I would put a lot of time into because also, as a kid, I was really bad at games, so it kind of took me a while to beat it, but that's par for the course. At the time of me being heavy with the Game Boy Advance, I was really only ever playing licensed games based off of already existing like TV and movie properties. Like the only other two games that I can really remember playing on the Game Boy Advance besides Spider-Man 3 were the Madagascar movie tie-in game and Nicktoons Racing. I know these aren't really like good games per se, but as a kid, I ate that shit up and here we are now. The Madagascar game was this really bad 2D platformer that was really clunky to control and had really bad combat, in quotes, combat. And the Nicktoons game was like a really bad kart racer trying to play that on a GBA. And it's just, I don't understand how I was able to play those games and have so much fun with them. But then again, as a kid, I saw anything that looked remotely fun at the time and I ate it up. And it's just, looking back at it, I really wish the better GBA games that I ended up getting later on were the ones that I ended up playing when I was a kid. Most of the games that were really notable that I played for the GBA didn't really come into play until I had my DS Lite with the whole Game Boy Advance slot at the bottom of the system. Once that happened and I started playing better games, I was sort of like upset that I didn't really run into these before because these were games that were out around the time that I had my thing. Like it was Sonic Advance 3, Pokemon Ruby Sapphire and Emerald, the GBA port of Super Mario World. Yeah, that's about it.
I really think the Game Boy Advance is responsible for my really big transition into liking more games because I honestly feel like without it, I wouldn't really have as much of a passion for games as I do right now. And I don't know, it's because of reasons like that that I really wish I still had mine, like my original one, because it's like without it, I wouldn't really be here right now and I wouldn't really be as big of a game person as I am. And for that, I will always thank it. The next console that we're going to be talking about is the DS. Now, out of all of the systems that I'm talking about in this video, besides maybe the one after this one, I feel like the DS is the one that I put the most time into and I have the most memories with. It's just, there are a lot of stories that came with this one, and we'll be discussing those right now.
If the Game Boy Advance paved the way, the DS really solidified it. Well, more specifically, the DS Lite, because I didn't have the original DS. I got the DS Lite. That came out on June 11th, 2006, but I didn't get mine until 2008, 2009-ish, with the very first game that I got for it being New Super Mario Bros. DS. I guess you could say I'm a late bloomer to certain game franchises because Mario Bros. DS was my first introduction to the Mario franchise, and even though it's not the most ideal game to start with, I can say that because of it, it was what started me on this path to becoming the big Mario fan that I am today. Next up came the introduction to the Sonic franchise with Sonic Rush. Now, I want to thank this game, but I also kind of hate this game in a way. It's like a love-hate relationship because I love it for introducing me to Sonic and making me a Sonic fan, but then I also hate it for introducing me to Sonic and making me a Sonic fan, if that makes sense. Because I love the game so much because it was so fun to play when I was younger, and it's even fun to play now. The boost gameplay, the ability to play as both Sonic and Blaze, the trick system, the music, oh Jesus Christ, the music. Being able to get the Chaos Emeralds with a messed up bottom screen, we'll talk about that later. It's just, that entire game was just so fun to me. And it's so fun that I'm pretty sure I just said it's just like 7 times in this one recording, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, the game to this day remains one of my favorite Sonic games of all time, and like I just mentioned, it's the reason that I'm a fan to begin with. On the other hand, it turned me into such a big fan that I started to morph my life in elementary school when I was introduced to it around Sonic. So, if anybody watching this video knew me in elementary school, they would know that I used to run around with my arms behind my back pretending that I was Sonic. I used to only ever talk about Sonic. I would only ever draw Sonic. It was bad. Like, I was known and made fun of for Sonic. And it's just, I really wish it didn't have to be that way, but I did it to myself, and you can't really take it back, but at least I had fun games to play as a result of me becoming a fan. And to be honest, I feel like Sonic Rush had a bigger impact on me as a Sonic fan than Mario Bros. Had an impact on me as a Mario fan. Because even back then and to this day, I'm still a bigger Sonic fan than I am a Mario fan. And even though Sonic was taking more, like, importance in my life than Mario was, I still enjoyed both of them. And what better way to enjoy both of them than with a game that has them both in it? Taking the spot of the third game that I ever played on the DS is Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. And I put, I think, more hours into this one game alone than both Sonic Rush and New Super Mario Bros. DS combined. Because there was just something about it that was so fun. And being able to play a game that had both Mario characters and Sonic characters in there was amazing. At the time, though, a lot of the Mario characters and a lot of the Sonic characters, I didn't really know who they were yet, so it took me a minute to adjust to understand who they were, like more specifically characters like Wario and Waluigi from Mario. And then on the Sonic side, I didn't really know who Metal Sonic was yet because, again, I was a young boy. But eventually, I came into terms with these new characters and I started to understand them. Now, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games is responsible for something really interesting that ended up happening that caused me to go through 2 DS Lites in my lifetime. And let me tell you, it was not a fun time.
So like I said before, I have a story to actually tell when it comes to the whole DS Lite situation. So basically, I had I had the black one at first. No, it was the blue one at first. The blue one. And I got that for, I'm pretty sure it was my birthday. And I had Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, and I had New Super Mario Bros. DS. And I'm going to talk about more of the other games that I played in a little bit, but essentially, I was stupid and a kid, and I was a very irresponsible kid at that, and I basically lost the stylus to that first DS. And so as a result, my dumb self really thought that the best way to continue to use a stylus on that thing was to take a comb, like like a regular like hair comb, and use the bottom of it, that little pointy part at the bottom of it, as the stylus. And as fucking expected, the screen got all scratched up, and as a result, the bottom screen was done up, and I wasn't able to use it anymore properly. So it's like, when I tried to play Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, for example, you have the track event, you have to rub across the screen really fast in order to get the character to move. I couldn't do that anymore because the bottom screen became unresponsive because of me being stupid. And it's like, I think if I had to go back and try to do better, I would choose to use not a pen, well, not a pen, but choose not to use a comb and not to lose the pen, because then we wouldn't be in that situation. Because it's just, I don't know, it just didn't seem logical, but I did it anyway. But then again, I was a kid, and obviously, I wasn't a smart one at that. So that's how we got there to begin with. But it's it's not that much you could really do about it now.
After that point, there wasn't really anything notable that came afterwards that I played. Like, there was the two Cars games that I played on there, like the one based off of the movie and then the Mater National game. And I remember playing those a lot when I got them, and I feel like I sunk as much time into those two as I did Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. And it's kind of sad when you think about it because those games weren't even that good. It was just fun to me. And again, that was how I felt about Spider-Man 3 and the fucking Madagascar game that I talked about. It wasn't good, but they were fun. The other two very notable Sonic entries that I had on the DS were Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood and Sonic Classic Collection. And in Chronicles' case, this game is very well known in the fan base for being not good. It was a very lackluster RPG. The story was eh. The music was not good. The graphics were bad for a DS game. It's just, people don't like it. But me, on the other hand, I consider it to be one of my favorite Sonic games of all time. And I'm not going to get into why now. I'll do that at a later date. But just know, I really do enjoy this game. And part of the reason why is because this game came through at a very different time in my life. And it was something that I very much appreciated. Essentially, I got Sonic Chronicles during a time where I was getting ready to go on my very first trip out of the country with my family to Dominican Republic. And before going on the trip, me and my stepsister got the choice of being able to get another game for our DS in terms of something to play while we were there. And I chose Sonic Chronicles when I saw it in the store. Obviously, I was 7 at the time, so I didn't really know what the game was like. And again, I ended up loving it, and I still kind of do now. But I didn't know how people felt about it because I wasn't really heavy on the internet. And as mentioned before, I didn't really have any friends besides like maybe one or two who were Sonic fans, and they were my age, and they also ate up everything Sonic like I did. And throughout the duration of the trip, obviously, I spent time with my family when the time came, but when I wasn't, I was in my room playing the game right there on my DS, and I was enjoying every second of it. And ever since then, it was solidified as one of my favorite Sonic games of all time. And to be honest, I'll always appreciate it for giving me a good time on a vacation, especially when I wasn't really used to leaving the country since that was the very first time I ever did. And it was a really fun time. In terms of Sonic Classic Collection, this game didn't have nearly as big of an impact on me as either Sonic Rush or Sonic Chronicles, but it was nice to have the classic games on my DS and being able to play them wherever I went. And having Knuckles and Sonic 2 as well as Sonic 3 and Knuckles on there were also neat additions. I lied actually, there was one more notable Sonic game that I did play on the DS, being Sonic Colors DS. I had so much fun with this game. Obviously, I don't like it as much as Rush. I mean, it really depends because I prefer Rush because it has Blaze and the whole neat trick system, but the way Sonic controls in Colors DS is a lot better in my opinion. Like, you don't have the trick system anymore, but you have Sonic's like classic boost moveset like the stomp, the slide, the homing attack and stuff like that, and it makes it a bit more fun. Also, if I'm being completely honest, this game also has a much more enjoyable story than the Wii version. And it's kind of crazy how they did so good with the DS story, but not with the Wii one, but we'll talk about that at another time. Another franchise that I got introduced to through the DS was Kirby. And the two games that I played for Kirby on here were Squeak Squad and Superstar Ultra. I had Squeak Squad first before I had Superstar Ultra, but I still had a really good time with both of them. Nowadays, we have significantly better Kirby games that you should put your time and money into that I'll be talking about later, but all in all, both of these games were also really fun, and it wasn't without Squeak Squad. I feel like I wouldn't be a Kirby fan. That's really how it goes with all of this. It's like not only was I introduced to these franchises on the DS, it's also because of these games that I got introduced to that I became fans of those franchises to begin with. And Squeak Squad was my very first Kirby game. Without it, I wouldn't be a Kirby fan today. So I gotta thank it for that. Would I ever go back to play it? Would I ever go back to play any of these games? Honestly, yeah, if I ever got the chance to, but just not right now.